Ruberò solo 2 minuti proprio per introdurre poi il collega che farà la vera presentazione, però ci tenevo a sottolineare il fatto che noi, al di là del fatto che conosciamo Venistar ormai da qualche anno, collaboriamo con loro, però questa edizione è per noi particolarmente importante perché di fatto sancisce la partnership, la business partnership che abbiamo appena concluso con Venistar. Quindi Venistar entra nel nostro ecosistema di business partner per il mercato italiano e soprattutto per indirizzare in maniera direi specifica l'industria del fashion e del luxury goods. Quindi per noi questo è motivo di particolare orgoglio, diciamo che noi in questa partnership portiamo in dote quello che sappiamo fare. Noi siamo un vendor internazionale americano che portiamo ai nostri clienti piattaforme applicative caratterizzate da una forte specializzazione per tipologia di industrie. Quindi in questo caso portiamo una piattaforma che si chiama Infor M3 e che è dedicata proprio per questo tipo di industria. Oltre a questo portiamo un'ampia dote di soluzioni tecnologiche, di piattaforme tecnologiche abilitanti proprio ai temi della digital transformation. Tutto questo evidentemente risulta essere anche fortemente complementare rispetto alle soluzioni che Venistar da sempre porta sul mercato ai propri clienti. Negli ultimi 2 anni abbiamo investito parecchio anche nella nostra struttura di consulenza, in particolare in alcune figure professionali che hanno proprio il compito di introdurre delle metodologie per accompagnare i nostri clienti verso fondamentalmente il tema dell'automazione digitale dei processi e attraverso di questi anche aiutare i clienti a ridefinire i propri modelli di business in termini appunto di innovazione basata sulle tecnologie digitali. Questo è il motivo per cui oggi ho invitato il collega Deep Ghosh, che è uno dei nostri Senior Principal della struttura che noi chiamiamo di Value Engineering e che ha esattamente proprio questo compito, quello di accompagnare le aziende nella trasformazione digitale e quindi con tutto quello che poi è legato anche al tema più generale dell'Industry 4.0. Lascio la parola a Deep Ghosh. Grazie.
So my name is Deep. I'm a senior principal in the digital transformation and value engineering group at Infor. And the topic of the presentation is how do you define a digital strategy? So quickly building on what Franco was saying, just a bit more about our company. So we are one of the world's largest enterprise software company. We've got 3 billion revenue. And based on some of the numbers, you can see that we are a global company. We believe a lot in making investment in our products. So we are making a lot of, so we invested 2 billion in product design. And a lot of our investment is actually going in retail and fashion to take advantage of things that are happening today. In the presentation today, I'll talk about 3 things. We'll start a bit with the context. We'll talk about our approach, and then we'll talk about some examples. I think in one of the presentations on Agile, somebody talked about the history of industrial evolution, right, or industrialization. So we all talk about Industry 4.0, or the fourth industrial revolution. And in case of fashion as well, the world has changed in the last 100 years, right? So if you go 100 years back, it was all about bespoke tailoring, and everybody was in one company creating some clothes, and then there were a few retail stores, and you sell it. 60, 70 years fast forward, the big theme was about automation, right? Globalization, automation, where you build products at scale and then push to the market. Whereas today, the world is again changed. So today it's all about consumer-nomics, right? So consumers are driving what people are buying or what companies are doing. And the biggest theme at the moment is time to consumer. So let's talk about some of the trends that we see in fashion and retail as well. So the first thing is the consumer data, right? So a lot of data is collected from consumers. Now, how you can use that data to drive business value, right? So whether it's data coming from the point of sale system, whether it's data coming from social media, whether it's even data coming from your wearables, right? Whether it's your garments or whether it's your Fitbit, things like Fitbit. The second bit is the hyper-personalization of goods. So how do you create a personalized product for a customer, right? The third big driver is omnichannel. So we talked about omnichannel in the previous presentations, but what we really call omnichannel is the true omnichannel, or what we call converged commerce. So omnichannel is not about multiple channels. It's about how you can deliver a consistent experience with a single version of truth, right? And we'll talk a bit more later about that. Smart products, very, very important. So things like, your wearable devices. And also, material science is evolving quite a lot. So now there are garments which can actually change based on the heat, right? There are garments which can change based on the mood of the person, right? There's a lot of innovation in material science that is actually enabling the smart products. And the last big driver here is the value chain becoming more interconnected. With companies collaborating, exchanging data, they are becoming much more connected. So we talked about the trends. So as a company, what do we actually do? So we help create end-to-end solutions to help our customers take advantage of these trends and then drive growth opportunities. So growth opportunities mean how you can increase revenue or how you can make yourself more efficient. From our perspective, we see digital transformation in two angles. The first part is automation. So how you can digitize a process to make it relevant for today. The other angle of digital transformation is what we call differentiation, or there's another word that a lot of people use called digital reinvention. So what that means is how you can rethink your business and use data and digital tools to do something completely new, create a new experience. So let's take automation. So, this is a complex slide, but to automate, this is our vision of end-to-end fashion or end-to-end retail, fashion retail. And we see that as three component parts. The first part is what we call the digital store management or the digital channel management. The second part is the digital workforce. So how you can make your workforce digitally enabled and your back offices digitally enabled. And the last side is what we call the digital supply chain. So our view is if you can digitize these things, you pretty much digitize your whole business. So digital store management, the center of it is converged commerce, which is true omnichannel. And the idea here is you have a single selling system, and then from there, you actually transmit everything to all your channels, which will give a uniform customer experience, a single version of your data, whether it's your products, your attributes, your prices, promotions, everything. And then it's comprised of a few components, like in-store fulfillment, in-store inventory management, in-store clienteling. And then on the outside, you have the digital channels. So we have got solutions around e-commerce, so whether it's B2B or B2C, and that gives the digital channels. The one in the center is the digital workforce. So this goes back into mostly in the ERP space, where we have got a set of solutions like product lifecycle management, warehouse management, which helps enterprises digitize their business processes. And the last bit is what we call the digital supply chain. Now, one of the challenges of globalization is today is that your supply chain is very complex. So the idea of this GT Nexus solution is that if you can bring all your supply chain into one network, right? So everybody is onto one platform, then you can have visibility of your entire supply chain. So we've got a lot of our customers, who are having all of these or some of these solutions. And if you look at a list of customers, we've got all kinds really, from apparel to sporting goods, sporting clothing, shoes. So what are we doing on differentiation? And differentiation is basically a customer comes in with a very specific request. which may not be readily available through a product. So then we work with them to create something different. So what are the outcomes that our customers are looking at? So they are looking at either new revenue streams, they are looking at empowering their employees to do their job better, they are driving new forms of customer engagement, they are completely reinventing their brand. So there was one customer we were working in the US who are saying that we don't want to be recognized as a clothing manufacturer, we want to be known as an experience provider, right? So reinventing the brand completely. And then actionable insights. And then we are doing a lot of these kind of solutions, and this is just an example. So specialized communities, so specialized sporting communities, for example. So people who are buying cycling gear or golfing gear, they can be part of one community and exchange information, right? Something like the Nike example. Then you've got online marketplace, so online marketplace for second-hand goods. Fitting room experience is the one I'll talk about in a bit more detail. Talent science. So talent science specifically, we're working with one customer where they're talking about how to look at a stylist in a store and understand how to kind of develop their career, right, in terms of learning, in terms of providing better customer experience. And then data science on RFID. So for example, if you have a particular goods moving in the store, to the fitting room and other places, how do you track their movements and create insights out of that? So we're doing a lot of innovative work based on what different customers want. I'll give you a quick example of the fitting room experience, just to give you a very simple example in a few slides. So the idea of this is, fitting room is part of, I think, any store where you pick up something and go to check whether it works for you. And the question is, how do you make that process very unique and very customer-oriented rather than just a transactional stuff, right? I go and wear it and buy it, right? It's more than that, right? So what we have defined is an app that a person who is actually fitting it can use, but also the sales associate from the store can actually use it as well. So let's walk through very quickly. So imagine, I'm the customer, I've picked up a cloth, I've gone into the fitting room, and there is a digital display over there, right? And I fit it up, I think, this is not good enough. Maybe the size doesn't work, right? I need a larger or smaller size. So what I can do is I can scan it and then select different sizes. Maybe I've taken an XL, I need medium or small. In my case, it'd be the other way around, but you understand, right? And then you can actually look at some of the other products that I might want with that, right? Maybe a trouser or something else. Right? And then I can add to the request list, and then I can send the request, right? And I can also see the sales associate, Louis Collins, who is probably outside the fitting room, and that message will go to him. Right? Now let's look at it from the sales associate perspective. The sales associate is walking around with a device, with a tablet or a mobile app, and he can see what's going on in the different fitting rooms, right? So he can see there are 3 items in room, 1 item in room 3, 1 item in room 4. So suddenly he's walking around, he gets a message on saying in fitting room 3, somebody has requested this one, right? So he can accept it, and then that goes in the 1 item in room, and there's 1 pending there. Right? And then he can actually go in and check what's in there, and then he can accept the request. And then he can also go in room 1 and then see, well, there are 3 items in there. Maybe the guy has asked that I need 2. And then he can actually select those 2 and send a checkout. So it can actually check out from there itself. And you can actually integrate that to even payments if you want to, right? So you check out, you actually make the payment, and that's done, right? It's almost like Amazon, you walk out and it's all done. You don't need to go to a till. So the concept is that, with that app, you are not only helping the customer, but also helping the sales associate to drive a better engagement, a better relationship, right? And it's not transactional. So the question then is, what does a project look like? So when somebody comes in and says, what's a project? So we actually do a project in 4 stages. So what we call a strategy, design, assemble, and run. The first phase typically will be understanding our customer, to understand what do they actually want from this digital strategy. The second phase will be design, where we actually do workshops with the customer to say, what we call a digital workshop or a design hackathon, where we develop the concept. The concept could be a mobile app, the concept could be a smart product-oriented solution, whatever that is. And then finally, once that is done, we assemble it to create the product. So this could be multiple products from us or something new. So you basically create the product. And then finally, we run the product. So it goes live, and then we support it. So last slide, so we're finishing. So how do you start? So my view is start now. I mean, there's a lot of talk in the market going on in digital transformation. You need to go and do it. Try and excite and engage the senior management on the potential of that. And we always, when we talk to customers, talk about case studies. I mean, I've got a lot of case studies, but some of them are not related to fashion. So, but the idea is to excite the management. It's not an IT project, but you still need an sound IT backbone to deliver this, right? So I think in the Agile presentation, there was a mention about technical agility. So you need an IT foundation that provides technical agility. Don't plan too much, because the world is changing very fast, right? If you plan too much ahead, that idea might go out of date by the time you implement.